I would like to welcome Marius Mainz. He's the Strategy and Growth Manager at HelloBetter, a company which actually started as a university spinoff, if I remember that correctly, and is now one of the leading providers of digital therapeutics for mental health in the world. So maybe a hint to the students we have here. That's how it can go. The things that you start, the ideas that you have right now, well, if you're lucky, you end up like this. Please.
So, first of all, thank you very much for the warm welcome. Welcome, everybody. My name is Marius Mainz. As earlier said, I work for HelloBetter. HelloBetter started as a university spinoff in 2015 and is now a company with more than 100 employees. And it's actually the company with the most DiGA, so digital health applications in Germany that have been reviewed and are effective and are available on prescription for 73 million people in Germany with statutory health insurance. So the German DiGA model was the first model worldwide implementing digital therapeutics into the standard of care. And that's basically the topic for today. And I want to give you some insights on how we have done so far. And the first DiGA was approved in October 2020. So it's been a little bit over 1.5 years now. But before I will talk about DiGA and what's happening in Germany and how other countries can learn from that, I have some exciting news to share actually from the UK. And it's not Tom Cruise here on the right, but it's actually the British, The Times, 2 or 3 weeks old, with this headline on the front page. Doctors to give sleep app rather than pills. So the company behind this is Big Health, and the app is called Sleepio. And actually, the app has proven to be more effective and cheaper than sleep pills. And now general practitioners in the UK use this app in the standard of care as a first-line treatment to help patients with insomnia. So it's not always Germany. There are other ways and other basically approaches to bring digital therapeutics into the standard of care, into the patient's hands. But Germany was basically, so to say, the first. We have the UK with several with this approach, and we also have France, which is going to replicate the German DiGA model. We're waiting for new information on that in the coming weeks. But before I'm talking about why the German DiGA model is so interesting and what we have learned so far, I want to give you a perspective from our view, basically, from the mental health world, why we need digital therapeutics and why it's not a nice feature to have, but actually a necessity to bring into the standard of care. And so as you can see here, 1 billion people worldwide suffer from a mental health disorder. 10% get the right care by a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist. 30% receive care by a general practitioner. And this is a good start, but still this person is a general practitioner and not a therapist. And then we have 60% of people who remain undiagnosed and uncared for. And you have to ask yourself why. And there are several reasons, but often from the first onset of symptoms to actively reaching out for care and getting a first contact appointment, it takes several years for people with a mental health disorder. And there are 2 main barriers. The first one is attitudinal, meaning stigma, shame, the personal needs of people. The WHO has done a survey on this, asking people with a mental health disorder, what is the main barrier for you not seeking help and going to a professional? Almost two-thirds said, I want to deal with my problems on my own first before reaching out. So what does it tell you? Even if you have all the therapists in the world in our healthcare system, all the resources from a structural point, you won't reach those 2/3 of people with a mental health disorder because you need to empower them first to understand their situation, give them the right tools to then reach out for help. So the structural barriers, I think this is well known. Not enough licensed therapists in Germany. We do have enough therapists. but not enough licensees, so to say, so that they can get paid by the statutory health insurance, or the public health insurance. This is why we have at the moment 5 months of waiting time to get treatment, to start therapy. I mean, imagine breaking your leg and waiting 5 months to get treatment. So, one reason, by the way, you could say we provide the health system with enough money, we hire enough therapists, give out enough licenses, build low threshold access to therapy, for example. But there's one main problem in healthcare, and it's often called the cost disease, and it's said to be uncurable. But what you see here is Germany and Austria, who both doubled their healthcare spending within the last 20 years. And it's not going to be better in the future, because there are not really, medicine is still focused on human labor. It should be, obviously. Medicine is always bound to the human touch. But you have to ask yourself, where are processes and therapies that you can digitize? Because once you are able to digitize a human service, you can scale it and you can distribute it at a much lower cost. And so coming now to DiGA. As I said, DiGAs are digital health applications which have been reviewed by the Federal Institute for Drugs and Medical Devices. So they are medical 1 or 2A device, so low risk. They have proven to be effective in clinical studies. They have high data protection and data security standards that are even above or beyond the GDPR. So what I want to highlight here, DiGAs are, so to say, the most regulated digital products that you can find on the market. So if someone is asking me, so where do I find health apps, that are effective and that are good to use? I always point them to the DiGA registry in Germany, because those have been tested, reviewed, and many of them have already the final evidence. And I'm coming to that a little bit later. So how do you get this DiGA, a digital therapeutic, a digital therapy on prescription? First of all, you can reach out to your general practitioner or your psychotherapist. ICD-10 diagnosis is needed to get access. And then in Germany, I heard the term e-prescription. It's like, we're working on it. We don't have it yet. And so you get these cute little red prescription papers, which you then have to send in a digital world on paper to your health insurance company. So then the health insurance company is getting back to you and is providing you with a code, like a number, like code, which then you can use to open the DiGA and access it for free. And in the end, the DiGA company or the DiGA manufacturer gets paid by the health insurance directly. So there's no out-of-pocket spending for the patient, which is actually pretty great. From all of those prescriptions that has been made so far, 90% follow the first path, so to say. So see a professional, get the diagnosis, get the prescription, get access to DiGA. The second way, so around 10%, is actually actually pretty smart way, because it's shorter. And I'll give you an example. So you already have a diagnosis. Let's say, let's assume I'm a chronic pain patient. I got diagnosed 3 years ago. Why should I go to my therapist or to my doctor to get, again, a diagnosis? I already have it. Why should I get this nice little red paper prescription? And so I can directly reach out to my health insurance company and say, you guys know I have this diagnosis, please provide me with access. And so then the health insurance company do that. And if you think about the second way, it's actually quite interesting, because this path, this journey is done without like a prescriber, so to say. So there's no doctor, no therapist involved in the second way directly. Of course, in the past there was the diagnosis. And so this is the first way a patient gets a medical treatment without direct contact of a medical provider, like a doctor or therapist. And so here you can actually see on the left side, so far we have 31 digital health applications that are listed and approved by the Federal Institute. And the dominating field is mental health. And that's not surprising, because in the past, the mental health feel there's a high prevalence in different indications. Research has focused a lot on cognitive behavioral therapy and digitizing it. So we have several of those DiGAs in the mental health space. HelloBetter is a good example. At the moment, we have 5 of our products listed, and these can be, for example, chronic pain, diabetes and depression, stress and burnout, to name a few. So we have the preliminary and the permanent listing. What does it mean? If you already, for example, HelloBetter is a great example. We are a university spinoff, so we have conducted lots of studies before entering the market, basically. So we were pretty confident that when we apply, we will be permanently listed because we have the evidence in place. We know that our products are effective and can help people. But there are other companies who may be, for example, much younger, and so they don't have this evidence base yet. So they can apply as a preliminary DiGA, and then they have 1 year time to conduct a study showing the evidence. So obviously they have to show some initial data and data analysis, but then have 1 year of showing the final proof of evidence. And if they don't show it, if they're not able to show it within 1 year, they get excluded. And so this happened already now 2 times. It's like, I think it's 4 or 5 weeks ago this happened. So it actually were 33 DiGAs approved, 2 excluded now. And when you look at the prescription numbers, this is quite interesting as well. I'm showing you here the numbers from the first year. As I said, we are now like 1 year, 8 months into the game already. The reason I can't present you more recent numbers is actually because all the data is siloed at the different stakeholders. So insurance companies have some of the data, how many prescriptions they paid for. The DiGA companies have their prescription numbers. And so we always have to wait, basically, for the leading association of the public health insurance companies to provide us with a report. And so this report, that's the most recent one, showing you the prescription numbers from the first year. And you see here, 40,000 were redeemed. What does it mean? We actually had 50,000 prescriptions, which is a quite low number if you think about it. In Germany, you have 73 million people who have free access to those DiGAs. And then from those 50,000, 40,000 were only redeemed. So 80%, 20% are lost. The reason, obviously, no one really knows. Maybe forgotten, maybe I went on holiday and then it wasn't important anymore. Anyway, 40,000. And you see, in the first year, we had 20 DiGAs. You see the most successful on here. And the last point, or the last bar with others, 12 DiGA, it shows that there are many DiGA who have not had not a big success with getting those prescription numbers up. And the question is why. And so there are 2 main reasons. First of all, we're talking about treatment indications. So the prevalence is an important point. How big is your market as a DiGA manufacturer? And second of all, your distribution capabilities. Because this is something that is completely underestimated and is extremely important to bring the products that you have and you have proven that they are successful, that they are effective. They need to be put in the patient's hands. Looking at the top 5 DiGA companies and their prescriptions, we can see that they're responsible for 81 of all prescriptions. So within the first year, and I'm going through some different stakeholders, the prescribers, the patients, and I'm talking a little bit about the DiGA companies. The prescribers, first of all, 4% in the first year have only, 4% of doctors have only prescribed DiGAs. So the critics say, this is way too low, DiGA is a complete failure. But I'm asking, is it? Weren't there other important topics in the last 2 years, like COVID, vaccination? Especially in Germany, the term digital is frightening doctors because they had so bad experiences with it. It's not even their fault. So you have to explain them a digital tool, and it takes time. So you could say 4% is actually quite bad. But if you look at the openness of doctors and also therapists, which is 81%, they say, yeah, like I imagine I will use it, like I'll prescribe it, I've tested it, or I want to test it, shows that there's potential, there's room to grow, and that's why I'm staying quite positive for the future, that even though 4% only started, I think it's a great start. There's, like I said, a lot of room for improvement, but we're on the right way. Interesting enough was actually the question, what are the main barriers for you to prescribing the DiGA, or why are you hesitating to prescribe it? And so first answer with the most doctors said, data protection, effectiveness, and getting access to a test account. So as I have shown earlier, the DiGAs are one of the most regulated products. So data protection is in place even beyond the GDPR. Effectiveness, most of them, I made the comparison between preliminary and permanent listed. So the permanent listed ones have already shown evidence and their effectiveness. So what we're seeing here is basically the need to educate the market. Obviously, we have to educate the patient and inform them that DiGA exists and how they get access, but we also need to include the prescribers and explain them this product. Coming to patients, that's actually quite interesting. We had almost 70% of the users within the first year were women. And then thinking about the age, you would assume that the age groups or the average age is much younger, let's say 25. But the reason why we're seeing here 46 years average of age is basically, it has not so much to do with basically using a digital tool, but about the indication and the disease. So basically age is not an indicator, but like the disease itself. And the adoption rate. 62% said the DiGA rather help me or help me. And so I think this is, again, the critics would say this is not enough. But I think if you have a treatment that has proven to be effective and 2/3 say it helps me, I would call it a success. So you have 84% users who use it once a week and 86% who said I'm likely to use another DiGA in the future. So one of the hot topics at the moment in Germany and in the DiGA landscape is actually price. How much should a DiGA cost? And you see the price range, 119 to 718 euros. There were at the moment 4 price negotiations that were finalized. And so I told you in the first year, DiGA companies can set their own prices. So why did the government decide to do this? So they can have an easy start, basically, increase adoption, because if the prices were too low, no one would actually apply to get DiGA listed. And so those 4 price negotiations, I'm going to show you the results of it. You can think about it as the DiGA manufacturer is having this discussion with the leading association of the public health insurance companies. And so if they don't agree on a price after several meetings, the price gets set by an arbitration panel. And so what we're seeing now, we had 4 DiGAs, and in all 4 cases, no agreement was made. So in all 4 cases, the arbitration panel had to set the price. And what you're seeing here, it's actually, from a DiGA manufacturer perspective, this is brutal. Getting price cuts from 29 to 67%, you have to really think about it, because there is a risk that this new price makes you not successful anymore in the future, that your revenue is not enough, basically, to stay in the game. First of all, it shows where DiGA prices are heading, and no one really knows basically what the right price is. There are different methods that you can use to calculate the prevalence, the impact you're having, your evidence, and so on. All I want to highlight here is we are learning every day, every week. It's a living model, basically. And so who knows? maybe this price will increase, maybe it will go down. And so it's exciting to watch the next price negotiations. And so coming slowly to an end, the successful DiGA factors that you should consider as a DiGA company, also basically as a patient as well, as a healthcare system, maybe if you want to integrate such a model into your country, is first of all, adoption. Approval and reimbursement don't guarantee adoption. I think that's what we've seen. Many more younger startups, they focus so much on the application and spend so many resources actually, that once they got listed, they had no clue what to do. How do I contact the patient? How do I contact doctors and prescribers? And so this is actually what you really have to think about. What do I do after I get listed? Am I going to do the distribution basically on my own? Do I do smart partnerships with distribution partners, with pharma, for example? So there are several ways to do this. In general, adoption needs time. So this is the DiGA model. We're talking about healthcare. Healthcare is not fast. So this is not your typical Silicon Valley 10x hypergrowth project you have here. And is it a problem that it's not growing as quickly as other technologies or other models? I don't think so. Education and financial incentives. I mentioned earlier the barriers for prescribers, that they need to be educated. So you need to learn their language and explain them like what may be obvious to you. So effectiveness, data protection, this is one important part. You also have to do this with patients as well. And then the financial incentive. In Germany, a prescriber gets 2 euros when prescribing a DiGA. So this is not a financial incentive. If you implement it basically in another country, you could think about maybe raising this financial incentive, and so you could increase the adoption. Price development and business model. I said it on the slide before. We need to see where the DiGA price is heading and what this means. It is basically, as I said, we're learning every day, every week. There will be a lot of consolidation over the next weeks and months, because when all those new price negotiations happen, some DiGA companies won't make it. What I want to highlight is that the cost, first of all, of developing a technical product is quite high. And so you also have to think about doing the randomized controlled trial. So doing studies is extremely expensive, and you have a medical device, so it meets a lot of other requirements where you really have to keep that in mind, that this product can't cost 99 cents in the App Store. It's not a health app, it's a digital therapeutic. And last but not least, providing value. DiGA is one important pillar of the future of healthcare systems. So it's scalable, it's effective, and it has a high quality, so it's highly regulated. But it's only one part. So the future value of digital health applications and healthcare systems lies in the interaction with other technologies and products. That's it from my side. Thank you very much, and happy to talk about DiGA later on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just stick around for a second. We can, I think, take 1 or 2 questions. Is there anybody here with an urgent question right now? We have a microphone going around, so just raise your hand if you... Yeah.
Thanks very much for the interesting talk. I'm wondering, when I look at the considering the price negotiations, when I look at the arbitration results, you have basically 200 euros plus minus 10, 20% for every single product, the four examples that you showed, whereas the manufacturers themselves had very different estimates. So is it simply that there's a perception that a digital product should just cost the same no matter how you come to it, because it's not, you know, it's intangible in that sense, and so all the research that goes into it doesn't quite count in a way. Whereas if you're the one making it, then it's clear that there's a big difference between one product and another.
Yeah, it's a really complicated topic. I think one of the first questions you can ask, so why did those companies set their prices for the first year that high? So there are some assumptions that they make. And so it's kind of, I can't really speak for those companies, but they may have their reasons for the first year. And so it kind of depends, and I think that is where we're coming to the topic of real-world data, actually, where this whole model is going to develop, hopefully in the future, that DiGA companies are able to use their data and show more evidence that which kind of impact they are having, and so that this real-world evidence then can support claims, for example, that a DiGA can cost 300, 400, or even 500, or if they can't basically show evidence for their claims when it comes to cost effectiveness, that a DiGA has to cost 50 euros maybe, or 20.
Okay, we have one question from the chat. It's about adherence. Do you have any feeling how adherent patients are to the app, or does maybe the app also help to improve adherence to medication?
So I can just talk from a HelloBetter perspective, what we are seeing when it comes to adherence. So a great comparison is often, if you have prevention courses, so which are not DiGA, because DiGA is only treatment, but prevention courses, there is often other companies have like the same challenge. Prevention, it's hard. Adherence in general is hard to keep up if you're doing something preventive. But what we're seeing with the DiGAs, people are actually using it. And often, even more patients who suffer for several weeks, months, and years, they have a high motivation to actually finish that course. So adherence is definitely an interesting topic. From our perspective, we see treatment courses have much, much higher adherence than prevention courses.